It was a dark October night, the moon hidden behind slate-gray clouds. Suddenly, from a mist-shrouded stretch of hollow road, a thunderous clamor, the crack of hooves on cobblestones. No ordinary rider could sound so fearsome. He came without a head, and with him carried the echo of a century-old curse. Tonight we chase the legend that still haunts Sleepy Hollow. We ask, who is the Headless Horseman, and what fate befell the unlucky schoolmaster who dared to race him? Lean in close, because once you hear this story, you may never leave your porch light off again. Turn back the clock to 1790 New York, when the fledgling United States still trembled from revolution. Nestled along the winding Hudson River lay the Dutch settlement of Tarrytown, an eerie stretch of marshes and twisted trees known as Sleepy Hollow. By day, the hollow seemed quaint, whitewashed taverns, sleepy farms, and villagers gossiping over woven baskets. But as dusk fell, a palpable hush descended. Residents spoke of ghostly lights bobbing among the reeds, of strange music drifting through the oaks, and of a restless spirit who patrolled the lonely lanes. This was no ordinary haunt. Locals whispered of Brom Bones, the town rowdy whose boisterous pranks fed the rumors. But they also spoke in hushed tones of something far more sinister. Some swore they'd glimpsed a rider, dressed in Revolutionary War uniform, with the empty socket where a head should have been. Some claimed the phantom carried his own severed skull on the saddle before flinging it after terrified peasants. Our hero, if you can call him that, was Ichabod Crane, a lanky schoolmaster newly arrived from Connecticut. Keen for board and room, Ichabod spent his days drilling children in spelling and math, and his evenings courting Katrina Van Tassel, the farmer's daughter with a fortune and a captivating laugh. But Katrina's heart was fickle, often dancing between Ichabod's earnest proposals and the swaggering advances of Brom Bones. On one fateful night, after a harvest supper of cider and pumpkin pies, Crane mounted his plodding horse Gunpowder and rode home along the dark hollow road. Under a canopy of gnarled branches, with only an owl's hoot for company, Ichabod's thoughts drifted, until a sudden blast of wind snuffed his lantern. In that blackness, the telltale sound began, a distant clip-clop, growing louder, faster, thicker with dread than any living creature could muster. Ichabod froze, heart pounding. From the inky gloom emerged a rider, a giant of a man on a coal-black steed, galloping without pause. His uniform gleamed faintly in the moonlight, a blue coat trimmed in brass, a tricorn perched askew on broad shoulders. But where his head should have been, there was only emptiness, until he raised a gleaming pumpkin aloft, jaws still intact, and hurled it like a cannonball toward Ichabod. This was the Headless Horseman, said to be the restless ghost of Hessian Captain Hans von Ripper, who fell in battle far from home. Legend claimed he rode each night in search of his missing head, condemned to roam the hollow until he reclaimed it. Some said it was a trick of angry townsfolk. Others whispered dark magic. Ichabod, terrified, spurred Gunpowder into a gallop. Branches lashed his face. The hollow seemed endless. Behind him thundered the horseman's steed, hooves striking sparks from the stones. Ichabod's lantern swung wildly, casting monstrous shadows that leaped and danced along the oaks. Over and over he glanced back, seeing only that lantern's glow drifting closer, and the pumpkin's grim grin bounding through the darkness. As they neared the old bridge by the churchyard, Crane remembered the legend. At the bridge's center, the horseman's powers were said to falter, his cursed form unable to cross consecrated ground. Desperate, Ichabod urged Gunpowder onward, his mind screaming that safety lay just beyond the creek's banks. If he could only hold on for one more heartbeat. Gunpowder reared, splashing through shallow water as Ichabod urged him faster. Behind him the clamor rose to a crescendo, hooves pounding, pumpkin whistling through the air. Ichabod's cloak whipped around him. Sweat dripped from his brow despite the chill. He could almost hear the horseman's silent laugh as the lantern's beam flickered perilously close. Halfway across the bridge, a sudden flash of firelight revealed the hollow's gravestones, weathered slabs bearing Dutch names forgotten by time. Ichabod dared a backward glance. The horseman's riderless, headless torso leaned forward, the pumpkin raised high in one hand. With a spine-chilling cry, it hurled that jack-o'-lantern with deadly accuracy. Ichabod barely had time to duck before the pumpkin exploded against a tombstone, shards of gourd and ember scattering like fireworks. The light went out. In the sudden darkness, Ichabod kicked Gunpowder into a final sprint, muscles burning, throat parched. And then, as thunder rumbled overhead, they broke free, Ichabod and his horse leaping from the bridge's end into the safe glow of the church's lanterns. He dared to glance back one more time. The bridge was empty. No ghostly figure, no galloping steed, just the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Ichabod patted Gunpowder's neck, voice trembling. "We made it. We made it." Yet somewhere in the hush, a hollow echo answered. A distant thud, like a heavy boot. A reminder that the horseman's hunt never truly ends. The next morning, Sleepy Hollow buzzed with rumor. Ichabod's hat lay on the bridge, crushed and torn. Gunpowder grazed quietly in the meadow, riderless bridle swaying in his mouth. But there was no sign of Ichabod Crane, no footprints leading away, no whispered farewell. Locals searched for days, combing the hollow and the riverbanks. Some swore they found a smear of orange pulp near a willow, an eerie clue that the horseman's pumpkin had finally found its mark. Others claimed Ichabod had fled in terror, seeking refuge in Tarrytown or beyond. Weeks later, Katrina Van Tassel married Brom Bones with nary a tear. Brom, so the story goes, had found Ichabod's hat and parade-worthy trinkets, bits of his cloak, a broken lantern frame, and teased that the horseman had kindly come calling for his prize. With a knowing wink, Brom claimed the entire affair as his own prank. And from that day on, no man in Sleepy Hollow dared to cross the old bridge after dark. To this day, no one knows what became of Ichabod Crane. Did he vanish into the next county? Was he spirited away by the restless Hessian? Or did he succumb to fear in the shadows, joining the spectral hunt forever? The Hollow keeps its secrets well. Washington Irving, the father of American short fiction, first penned this tale in 1820, drawing on Dutch folklore, Revolutionary War legends, and oral campfire stories passed down along the Hudson. He set his narrator centuries after the war, weaving fact and fancy to craft a quintessentially American myth. The real Tarrytown was indeed settled by Dutch farmers, its narrow roads snaked through lowlands where mist clung like breath. Hessian mercenaries fought alongside British forces in the Revolution, and legend held that some were buried hastily near the hollow, their spirits restless. Irving's stroke of genius was to fuse these elements into the figure of a headless horseman, a villain both foreign and deeply tied to America's nascent identity. Early illustrators and stage adaptations cemented the image: a draped, headless torso, a jack-o'-lantern turned in grim triumph, a spectral steed that galloped in moonlight. Over time, Sleepy Hollow became as real as the Hudson itself. Tourists flocked to the bridge, the cemetery, the reenactments, And every October, the town donned its ghostly mantle once more. From Disney's 1949 animated short to Tim Burton's lavish 1999 film to HBO's moody Sleepy Hollow series, Ichabod Crane and his headless nemesis have galloped through every era's imagination. Each retelling reshapes the legend, but the core thrill remains. The primal fear of being pursued by something unstoppable, something beyond death itself. Sleepy Hollow's residents now embrace the mythology. Lantern tours wind through the hollow. Actors in tricorns and capes jump from behind tombstones, and every souvenir shop boasts a bobbing pumpkin on a stick. Even Google Maps marks the Old Dutch Church and the Headless Horseman Bridge as must-see landmarks. In a world awash with digital scares, the simple terror of a rider without a head still grips the heart. Why does the Headless Horseman endure? Perhaps because he embodies our deepest anxieties, the fear of losing our identity, of being hunted by our past, of facing the void. Ichabod Crane, clad in books and reason, represents belief in logic. Yet under the hollow's darkness, logic fails. His flight reminds us that some mysteries defy explanation. The tale also explores class and culture. Crane, the outsider schoolmaster, courts the wealth of the Van Tassels, only to be cast out by the town bully, Brom Bones, who claims local birthright. The horseman's invasion of the bridge is an invasion of Crane's ambitions, a reminder that certain boundaries between life and death, between stranger and native, must not be crossed lightly. So next Halloween, when the wind moans through the trees and your lantern flickers low, think of Ichabod Crane and ask yourself, if a headless specter called your name in the darkness, would you dare to answer? Which American legend should we chase next? Pecos Bill's Twister Ride or John Henry's Hammer Duel? Hit subscribe, ring the bell for new folk tales every Tuesday and Friday, and become part of our midnight campfire circle. Until then, keep a lantern by your door and sleep with one eye open.